Mods are a thing. A very important one that unfortunately you don't really get taught while going through the tutorial. All you do learn is that mods exist, and you use them. But Warframe really doesn't tell you much in terms of understanding them, or just how to use them correctly. I am a newer player. I've been in the game for a few months, and I don't think I would have survived if I hadn't been told how to use mods and how to build Warframes around them. What I know, I feel is limited. However, today, I want to share what I know with new or returning players, so they can know the beauty that is Warframe, and don't feel like quitting soon after because they don't know how to get past all of this. So what is a mod? Occasionally referred to as modifications, mods serve the purpose of granting additional powers or perks to your Warframe, weapons, and the many different other things that you own. You obtain them in a variety of ways throughout gameplay, but the most common you will probably see is while fighting normal enemies while going through missions. Other ways include from different containers, rewards for completing various missions, events, or even vendors on various destinations. When you obtain a mod, they would look something like this. If you are a TCG lover like I am, or at least used to be, then you might see a lot of familiar traits that come with every single mod. Most of the information can look confusing, however, I'll break it down so you know how to read a mod. Here is a breakdown of the mod Redirection in depth to help you understand what everything means. Number 1 is the border. The border lets you know the rarity of the mod. As of the recording of this video, there is only 9 different rarities of mods and a few unique extra types. I'll talk about those more in a moment. Number 2 is the flare. The flare is often a depiction of a warframe or enemy showing off something that it could be related to the mod. Number 3 is the name and description. It simply talks about what the mod is and what it will do. In the case of Redirection, it raises your shield capacity by 40% at base rank. Number 4 is the number that the mod either drains or provides capacity to whatever the mod is going into. This number increases based upon its rank. Number 5 is the set name. This tells you where the mod can be used. Number 6 is the rank. The rank tells you how much you've upgraded it. Number 7 is kind of special. It really only shows up on certain rare mods or stance mods. For most normal mods, you'll only see small stars that show off its rarity. Number 8 is the quantity of duplicates of a selected mod that you have in your inventory. Since you really only need a few copies of any given mod, you can always sell a few extras for credits or Endo, which I will talk about more later. That's a very brief overview, but I'll go more in depth in a moment after talking about rarity. Rarity is not as important to know, but it does tell you how hard certain mods may be to obtain. In order to avoid spoilers, I won't be mentioning every single type, and instead will mention them in subsequent videos to keep you from seeing things that you're not supposed to see in the game. The rarities go as follow: common or bronze mods, uncommon or silver mods, rare or gold mods, legendary or platinum mods, and ribbon mods. There are also flawed type of mods that all new players get access to when they start the game. These come when you are completing the tutorial, and as their name implies, are flawed versions of actual mods that you can get later on. There aren't a lot of these, but the game devs have included them to make it easier for new players to equip mods that might be more expensive or harder to get in-game. Now that you know how to get mods and how to read them, let's go over how to use them. For the video today, I'll be showing off a few different mods to help understand how they work. Really quickly, before we get started talking about all these mods and what they do, I want to go quickly over a couple of different keywords so that it's easier to understand. Really quickly, up at the top here is capacity. This is how much space you have to install mods on your Warframe. Every single Warframe has a cost that I talked about earlier. Armor is how much armor that reduces damage dealt to you. This is an arbitrary number that is raised or lowered based on the mods you have. Energy is how much energy max you can have on the battle at any time. My current max on Octavia is 525. The energy you have at the start of mission is dictated by how much capacity you have left over after you're done kitting yourself out. I'm not quite sure what number really impacts this, but I have 155 energy to start with. Health is basically, well, how much damage you can take before you die. Shield is what absorbs damage, except for toxic damage. Toxic damage seeks through and does damage to you just without the shields being impacted. Sprint speed is just how fast you and your Warframe moves. Duration is the duration in which all of your abilities will last on the battlefield before expiring. Efficiency is the cost of every single ability. The base cost is 1/4, and every single bit of efficiency, say from perhaps Streamline, will increase how much less every single ability costs. Range is very simply just how far your abilities will go and how far they can hit. Strength is just how hard your abilities hit enemies and just how much they hurt different enemies. That's pretty much it for the basics here on your Warframe. Really quickly, to just go over a quick overview of one single mod. Prime Continuity gives a 45% ability duration. Duration affects how long your abilities are on the field before they expire, and that's basically it. So let's say if your ability has a base of 10 seconds, which I know it doesn't, but I'm just going simple here. If one of my abilities has 10 seconds of duration, 45% would be 4.5 seconds, so it would have an additional 4.5 seconds, bringing it to 14.5 seconds of duration before it expires. And it costs a total of 6 because I am putting it in a polarity spot. If not, it would cost 12, and it is rank 8 right now, denoted by the little symbols on the bottom, and it is a legendary mod because it is in a silver/platinum border. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. If it didn't make sense, please tell me in the comments below. I hope I'm not being too confusing. Now, really quickly, we're going to talk about weapon mods. Weapon mods are a little bit different from Warframe because they have a lot more different things to talk about, a lot more damage numbers, and a lot more things that kind of go into them. I'd like to reiterate right now, I am not a perfect Warframe player. If you are a long-time watcher, please do not criticize me too deeply. I understand that I may not have the perfect loadout, but I am still learning and teaching kind of as I go. The loadout I'm going to be showing today is an Igneous Wraith. Igneous Wraith is one of the better weapons in the game that a lot of people may or may not choose, and I'll be showing off kind of just the hodgepodge of mods I put on here, and hopefully be able to explain how they work so that you can understand them. Really quick, we're going to talk about some specific keywords before we get started with the actual mods here. I've already talked about capacity, so we're going to avoid talking about that. Accuracy is, as it says here, how far the projectiles will deviate from the rectile. Ammo maximum is how much can be held at any one point. Ammo pickup is how much you get when you pick up ammo off of the battlefield. Fire rate is how many projectiles are fired. So let's say that if you have a fire rate of 12.8, you have 12 projectiles per second, I believe. The magazine is how many will fit into the magazine before it will have to be reloaded. The multi-shot is basically how much, basically a chance to fire more than one shot every single time you shoot. It has its own, every single multi-shot has its own chance to do its own separate effects. Noise is basically, since you are a space ninja, it is important to be quiet unless it's not. But noise is basically just how loud the weapon sounds to the environment around you, and whether or not enemies can hear it when you're trying to be quiet. Reload is just how much time it takes to reload it. Ribbon disposition is the performance of mod. It basically modifies specific ribbon mods, which we won't talk about today since that's a completely different video entirely. But that just tells you how much the performance of specific ribbon mods. And trigger, this basically just tells you if you have to hold it or you have to tap it. For the Igneous Wraith, you have to hold it down since it is a flamethrower. You don't quick tap a flamethrower. You do hold it down in order to spread your carnage and your damage to people. Next, we have damage. Critical chance, just the amount of percentage before you have a critical hit. Obviously, at 100%, you have chance for even harsher critical hits, and so on and so forth. The crit multiplier is just how much damage extra that the crit will do. Status is, so for Warframe, there are different status effects that you can inflict and have inflicted upon you. Your status chance is mentioned right here, which I believe every single weapon has a different base status. And for this one, mine is increased to 29%. This is basically just for every time that you hit somebody with something, it has a certain chance to inflict a status. And then these below are different statuses that you can have. For this one, I have a couple of different statuses, and I will explain both of them. There are multiple different statuses. I won't go through all of them today, but I will show you 2 of them, and then you can experiment with them later on. First one is heat, and all of these will actually, except for, there are going to be certain guns that will already have their own statuses on them, such as the Igneous Wraith. I believe that the Igneous Wraith comes with heat just already on it. In fact, if I look here, it already has, yeah, so I believe Igneous Wraith already comes with heat on it. It is a flamethrower, so that makes sense. Heat, it does a specific, is a specific status chance that just causes extra burn damage to different enemies. And then you have corrosive. Now, corrosive here is actually a mix of 2 different elements. And those 2 different elements are toxin and electricity damage. Now, like the singular statuses that you have here, the corrosive, along with a couple of different other ones, are mixes of 2. And the way that you mix them is, in fact, I'll show you right here. I have this electricity status effect and this toxin status effect. And in order to get them, you have to stack them kind of left to right. It really doesn't matter. I can actually just put it here and it really wouldn't matter. But if you're stacking multiple status effects, because you can stack more than just 2. As you can see, we have 2 here, but you can stack multiple ones in here. But if I decided to put, well, I don't have the ability to, but if I could stack, let's say we put a cryo fire or cryo round in here. It does matter where you put them. So I believe that it goes as it's left to right, up, left to right, up and down. And you can mess around with that, obviously, as you're going in through here. But as you mess around with that, you're going to get these specific, you'll get this specific pairing, and the specific pairing does different types of damage. Corrosive is really good at eating armor, and is really good for harder content later on where people have lots of armor. And then the total is just how much damage all of this combines down to. And for this it is 353.8, which might not sound a lot. There's a lot of weapons that actually do a lot more damage, like your melee weapons, which I'll talk about in a moment. For a weapon that has a pretty high fire rate and does this much damage times 12.8 basically every second, that's pretty good in my opinion. So it's pretty good. Okay, let's go briefly over the mods. Most of them are going to be similar to the mods that are in your Warframe mods. However, I am going to go over some specific ones just to kind of show the differences between them. Serration, this one is just a flat damage upgrade. I'd say this is a pretty good one to add on. Speed trigger boosts fire rate. Now you'll see that it also says that it does ×2 for bows. And that's mostly because bows have a slow fire rate, so this is a specific mod for increasing fire rate. Again, you'll see that there is specific mod costs, like with the Warframe set. Everything else has a mod cost. Everything else has a rank. Everything else has a rarity and a border around it. Like I said, these ones inflict specific statuses. This one increases how much ammo you can have. Sinister Beam just increases how far the beam length, and I guess in this case, in the length of the fire can go. And then I have this multi-shot, which increases the chance. Oops. Oh, where'd it go? Let me put that. This just increases the amount of multi-shot chance I have across all of the board. Alright, really quickly, I wanted to also talk about melee weapons, because there are a couple of differences between regular and melee weapons. One of the biggest things to note is there are a couple of different ways to do damage, because melee weapons can have basic and have, well, not all of them, but most of them come with basic and heavy attacks. Some of them have slam radius, which just how the radius in which people will take damage when you slam. You have your slam attack, which is how much damage you do with your slam. Then you have your regular damage right up here. Then your heavy attack. Now the heavy attack again. Your heavy attack is, at least on my computer, it is when I press the middle click. It is basically your for my scythe here. It is basically a wind-up attack, and this is how much damage you do with that wind-up attack. It's quite a bit more than your regular attack, which makes sense since it is a heavy attack here. And also, really quickly, there's a couple other different statuses that you can put on here that may not be available on regular guns, and that being impact, puncture, and slash. There may be a couple more that I missed, but I'll talk over these real quickly. Impact, most effective against shields. It increases the chance that target is vulnerable to finishers. Puncture, most effective against armor. It reduces the target's armor damage output. Yeah, all three of these just do different things. Slash is really, this one will really ramp up the damage that you do against things that don't have armor on them. And then all of that just kind of adds up, and then this is the total here. So, yeah, that's the easiest way to kind of understand the different damage types. And for the scythe here, one other thing that I do need to mention is the aura mods for melee weapons actually come with stances. Now, a stance is basically what changes how you attack with the weapon. So if I were to take this off, I would be attacking with the scythe in the sort of a normal attack animation. But because I have this on, the stance gives a wide slash and a heavy strike. And of course, since I have it leveled up, it gives it an increased 10 points of capacity. And I do have a Orokin reactor put on it, so it does have a max of 70 capacity here. Also, another thing to point out, I won't talk about these too much because these are from a secret set that you can actually unlock by doing the story. But these are special because they have a special symbol at the top. I did talk about these before when talking about rarities. But these are for most of the time part of specific sets, or they're just meant to denote specific things, like this sacrificial steel or sacrificial pressure. And they're just supposed to denote special mods that probably come from specific things. One more thing to note, I may have said that a couple of times, I apologize, is combos. You can open this up real quickly. The aura mod does change your combos, and this basically shows you the different moves that you can do with it. Very easy. You know, the M5, which is one of my side buttons on my mouse, do it multiple times and you can just swing it. And we have all of these different attacks you can do here. So when you install an aura mod, it's important to look at the combos because, again, this does change how you can attack with it, and it will impact your damage because of, you know, how you attack with it. So if you install an aura mod, I highly recommend looking at the combos so that you can understand how the weapon now moves and how it works. That's basically weapons, both melee and primary. I didn't cover secondary because secondary mods are basically the same as primary mods. The only difference between a primary and a secondary is most secondaries will be in an off. They are basically an offhand weapon unless you've got the double version of the weapon. But they're really not that much different. So I didn't talk about them, but they are basically the same as your primary weapon. It's just your secondary weapon. That's pretty much it in terms of explaining the mods. Let me go over really quickly how to sell mods, because over your travels, you're gonna get maybe a couple of mods that you don't need multiple copies of. I've had over 200 copies of redirection. I don't need 200 copies of redirection. You might also have a couple of different mods of differing rarities, and you don't need all of them. One thing you could do is you could give them to friends, especially if they're new. They might not have it. They might need that mod. It could really help them out. However, if they'd already have it and you don't want to give it to anybody, you can sell them on the mod station here. Let me back out real quickly. The mod station is on this section of the ship. Enter in and you can view all of the mods that you have. I have, including duplicates, 1,417. That's quite a lot of mods, and I don't need all of them. That's like a total of about 375 mods that are not, that are unique. So let's get rid of some mods that we don't need. In order to sell a mod, you actually can click on a mod, click the amount you want. I always sell I always sell all but one in case I need it later. Most of the time that just means I have 2 copies in the eventual future. But what you do is you choose that, and you have 2 options for selling. You can sell for credits, or you can sell for Endo. I will always recommend that you sell them for Endo. First, the reason why is you can get credits, you can get credits by just doing normal content. They don't give you a lot of credits for selling 20 copies of Sharpened Claws. However, it does give you a decent amount of Endo. You are going to need a lot of Endo while playing. In fact, really quickly, let me show you just how expensive Endo can be. Alright, for this I'm going to show off my primed continuity one more time on Octavia. This is a mod that I have almost raised to max. Now the reason why it is not raised to max is it is rank 8 right now. To raise it to rank 9 would cost 10,000 Endo, which I can afford. I can afford to do that. However, to raise it to rank 10, I need 30,000 Endo. The way that mods work is it starts off at a very tiny number, but then it doubles every single time until you get to a ridiculous number, such as 30,000. So you are always going to need Endo. As you can see, I have 19,000. That is not a lot of Endo. So you are going to want to sell any mod that you do not need, because that will help you get a decent amount of Endo. And I mean, it'll keep your inventory clean. Yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, sell the mods that you don't need, get a decent amount of Endo, and profit. And you can sell more than just one at a time. You can sell, I think I've sold hundreds. I've sold hundreds of these at a time, and it just gets rid of them. And the only thing that kind of sucks is there is no sell all duplicates feature that I know of, and it would be really nice, excuse me, if something like that was included. But there's not, but that's okay. You can just go through your mod list and slowly sell all of them until you are done with them. And then in a couple of months do it again, because you grinded one specific level and have another couple hundred versions of redirection. So that's pretty much it for the basics. I haven't touched on a couple of other things that you can use mods for, mostly because they're more advanced and are for later in the story, and I don't wish to spoil them for new players. But again, just to review what I have shared with today, go back into the upgrade for my Warframe here. Mods have a specific capacity in order to equip them. They all do different things, such as this streamline here, which increases the ability efficiency, or this flow, which increases the amount of energy max that I can have on my Warframe at any given time. And you can use specific items called forma, in the form of polarization, in order to reduce the cost of installing mods by half. And by doing so, allow you to add more mods onto your Warframe and have them do more things. You can increase the mod rank by going into the mods section and by selecting mods that you want to upgrade. Remember that if you do wish to upgrade them, they do cost both credits and Endo, and the number gets exponentially more expensive every single rank you decide to use it for, but it does increase the stats very nicely and very significantly, and it is worth doing. Even though it is expensive, I do believe that it is worth doing, because there may be one day where you need that extra 5 or 10% to go through specific content, and doing it will help you. I've also discussed really quickly what to look at in terms of the weapon, what the damage types are, what the different statuses are, how you can add those to your weapon, and how different ones can create different status effects, such as this corrosive from electric and toxin. You get that by putting one right next to each other or up and down. Again, it does not really matter which, it just matters if you're adding more than one. You'll have to experiment in order to find ones that you like, but in general, the different statuses can be explained by hovering over them, and again, you'll have to experiment with them and figure out which content will need specific ones. So that's about it. I hope today's video was informational. If it was, please consider giving a like and a sub so that you can stay up to date when I upload new things like this in the future. I really did enjoy making this. It was a very big labor of love, and I do hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, also please let me know in the comments what you liked or what you disliked about it. Other than that, YouTube is going to recommend you a video that it thinks that you are going to enjoy, and I am going to go take a break now because this was a long time to film and get done. Anyway, you guys have a good one. I'm going to have a good one as well. Bye!